Hello, and welcome to number 11 in the Building Better Teams series. This is our final piece. This is looking at leadership, teamship, and fellowship. This is mainly focused on what it means to lead in a scientific research team and ways in which you can really engage in gaining leadership experience and driving a team forward through leadership. As I've said before, this is an adaptation of a series that IMOD hosted in early 2025, looking at various aspects of team science. Here are the subjects that we covered. I encourage you to check out the other videos. Hopefully, you've got a pen and paper nearby. What I'd encourage you to do is try and answer this question. What makes a good leader? Pause the video for 30 seconds or so. Think about these things that you've experienced in the past, things you wish you'd had experience of. What makes a good leader? What this really comes down to is how are decisions made in a research team? Leadership is not just about authority. It's about how you influence, how you collaborate, how you communicate, and how you guide teams towards a shared goal. In research teams, leadership is often situational and distributed. Different team members may and should take the lead depending on the expertise needed. And I'll talk a little bit more about what the difference is between situational and distributed. What this really means is that for something like IMOD, we don't just have one central leader. We can't force David's schedule into him turning up to every single team and leading every single team. That would just both leave him very tired, but also be, we wouldn't take advantage of the fact that we may have many different leaders who offer different skills to offer in the different team environments. So there's opportunities in this kind of space. So bringing together a team takes effort. While everyone is key on a team, there are typically two or three members who really steer the effort. This is not always the most senior individuals, either through hierarchy or time on the team. But this is where early discussion on a team can really help create this value. Team members might just assume, if you don't have this discussion, they might just assume that the most senior person on the team is going to be the one in charge. They might just say that person is going to set the meetings, is going to tell us where to go, is going to do this, is going to organize the data, is going to keep minutes, is going to do these things. And if they're not doing it, then that's their fault. The faculty member might assume that they're actually just there as a scientific consultant. They're not there to organize meetings. They're not there to lead people in various different aspects. They are literally there to answer scientific questions. If you don't talk about that early on, there's a big gap between this level of understanding. Team scenarios in IMOD is a fantastic place for trainees to take on new leadership responsibilities. It's a great way for you to develop these skills and practice them with mentors who are happy to help guide you. This will be super valuable for when you go on to interview for jobs because you can actually explicitly say, I'm a T-shaped person. I've got this depth of knowledge here, but I've also developed leadership skills in how we communicate in a team, in how we store data and work together, in how we have asynchronous methods. So really think about how you would like to learn. Identify on your T what skills you would like to develop. You might have some strength in some spaces. You might need to develop things in others. So really think about that. Ask to lead. Take the opportunity to really connect on this. You might reach out to the most senior person on the team and they say, no, I've got it in hand. Or you might reach out and that person on the team says, oh, wow, thank you. I'm too busy. This has been a mess. I'd love for you to take over. I need the help. So really asking that question is not going to upset anybody. Leadership is as sort of individual almost as the personality tests are. There's not one ideal way to lead. There are some wrong ways to lead. So these are just four of the examples of a good leadership style. You've got someone who's transformational. This is kind of a Steve Jobs who inspires people. You need to have vision and idea, but you keep everyone moving. You encourage innovation. You get people motivated to do the thing. You have servant leadership. This is someone who really looks to train people and support people. You build trust. So you could have both of these on the same team. You could have a visionary and someone who is building these. They can be seen as passive, but there are ways to do this. Transactional, someone who builds structures, develops rules, keeps people accountable. This is my kind of default setting if I'm not thinking about it. It works well for large structured teams, but can discourage and shut things down. Laissez-faire, it's a hands-off approach. I've worked with folks who are like this. It gives people space, but you need to make sure that there's some direction. So often it's great when you have kind of a combination of these, and it gives different team dynamics, and it gives a way to kind of operate together. Some of the ways that you want to kind of avoid are, absenteeism. You're not involved. You assume people are doing things, but you don't check. You assume things are happening, but it can lead to people being like, "Well, I assumed you'd done this." You're like, "Well, no one really talked about it, and you can't just come and talk to me on the day of." Inhibited, people who kind of hide and don't talk about conflict or don't kind of are reluctant to handle difficult situations. Defensive can be people who are resistant or who kind of push things back on you. And hostile, people who are competitive are often in this mechanism where it's always got to be kind of a one-up situation, and that can often cause conflict. Sometimes that works great. There are studies that look at some of the common strengths that really help leaders. Independent of the style, these traits help promote success. Someone who can help vision, and that's not just coming up with the vision themselves, but bringing people together around that vision and answering questions and pivoting if needed. Someone who takes stock of the situation and helps learn from past mistakes or past successes. Someone who comes in as a boundary crosser, someone who really values feedback and perspectives from different expertise and looks to join those together. Someone who isn't afraid of conflict, someone who actively promotes disagreement and helps people say, okay, how are we going to get past this? And then someone who is a champion of logistics. They don't have to be the person doing the organizing of the logistics. They may have someone who helps them with that, but they follow the rules and they use the tools that are developed. So these are the traits of what a number of studies have found to be really sort of effective leadership skills. You don't have to be told you're a leader to lead. It does help. And this is where that collaborative agreement is super helpful because you can say, so and so is in charge of this, so and so is in charge of that. But there are two main modes. In a research team, there is situational leadership. So this is sort of contextual. Are we in a crisis? Do we need to sort something out? Are we in more of a long-term strategic planning? Are we in a mode where we are teaching somebody? If you've got an effective crisis manager, someone who's moving fast, who's building consensus fast, who is communicating a lot, they're probably not going to be in a mode to help mentor somebody. And then there's shared leadership, where you have sort of, there might be someone who is strong at communications. There might be someone who is strong at organizing and logistics. There might be someone who is more interested in learning more about running meetings. And you can basically distribute that. One of the real strengths of a leader is identifying the strengths of your teammates. And so have a think, pause the video. How would you identify the strengths of your teammates? If you're starting on a new team and you want to try and amplify the productivity and performance of your team, how would you do that? Going back to my mountain analogy, this is where working to your strengths is going to be your benefit. If you've got a team cook, they are based at the kitchen. If you've got climbers, they are the ones climbing the walls. If you've got people who are good at carrying and moving things, they're the ones doing this. You get people to work on their strengths. You don't put the climber in charge of the cooking and the cook in charge of the climbing. And that's how you reach your goal. You play to people's strengths. One of the key skills a leader can develop is how to draw upon these strengths. And there are Experienced and effective leaders who have honed the talent to recognize and exploit the strengths of their colleagues. If you're not there yet, the best way, the simplest way to do this is literally to ask people. When you're starting in a meeting, when you're going through a collaborative agreement, hopefully they've all gone through the self-awareness session that we talked about, and they know what they want from this meeting. They know what their strengths are. Uncover those. Talk to people. Ask people what their strengths are. They might not know, in which case you can help them find it. Or they might have strengths that they don't realize. And that's where it kind of comes out. It's from observing people and really saying, okay, this person's really good at this. Let's take advantage of that. Or this person's super interested in developing this. Let's take advantage of that. Let's give them a chance to learn, but also benefit our team. This is just a table of the characteristics that have been identified as a mechanism to contribute to successful team leadership. You've got to be self-aware. You've got to look at what others are doing. Take responsibility, but also give responsibility to others. So share credit. Be accountable. If there are issues, address them. Mentor others. Really help people. Give people opportunities. Managing up and across. You might not be the most senior person on the team, even if you're the leader. How do you work with people? How do you connect? How do you make sure that they're feeling engaged and connected? Building a trust, creating a safe environment, having difficult conversations, setting it up so that you don't have a lot of difficult conversations, speaking up, challenging ideas, being fair, and turning up as a role model. This is an important one. As you develop as a leader, people are going to be watching you. They will see that you're doing this good stuff, but they will also then see that you are leading by example. So be aware of that as you kind of work on things. Take a second, pause the video. What leadership skills do you think you have? What are the characteristics that we just listed that speak to you, and maybe some that you identify that you don't have? That's what I'd write down here. Think about what you'd like to learn. Use that T-shaped structure to help you identify some of the things that you'd like to learn. So here are the action items from the leadership section. This is the last in the course. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to go through the other things and learn about these different subjects. Hopefully this gives you an opportunity to think about how you can develop as a team player. Not just someone who works on the periphery of a team, but sits at the heart of a team, starts to connect people, starts to lead people. Yeah, thank you for your time, and yeah, enjoy working in teams. Cheers.